John Condo with growingyourgreens.com. Through another exciting episode for you. Where I'm at today, I'm here in Monterey County, Carmel area. And why I'm here today is actually I'm in a senior condominium complex. So this is for people that are 55 and better. And why I'm here today is to visit with a friend, Cecilia, who is actually growing her own food in her little condo. And this is simply amazing, because not only is Cecilia growing her food in her condo, she actually follows my videos and actually does a lot of the things that I say, and it's working really good for her. And so what I want to do in this episode is show you guys how, if you guys live in a condo, an apartment, a townhome, and have even just a little bit of patio space, you can grow a lot of food in the patio space, and Cecilia is doing an amazing job at doing just that. In addition, she's also composting. Not only just standard, thermal composting. She's also doing worm composting, and she has a worm composter that I'm actually quite envious of. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and go into Cecilia's backyard patio area to show you guys how she's growing her own food here in the senior complex. All right, so now we're at the back door of Cecilia's place, and we're gonna go ahead and head inside and show you guys what she's got growing on. And one of the things I like is that, all these backyard areas or patios are nice and private, so they got nice tall fences to keep unwanted local animals out. So let's head inside and show you guys what she's got growing. Even though she's got a lot of patio space, she's growing really intelligently. So basically, this is what it looks like here in her patio area, and actually more than half of the patio area is basically this bricked in space that most people couldn't use for growing food. But yet on this side, actually, she has a nice, maybe 5-foot area by, maybe 40 feet long, where she's growing plenty of food for herself. And she's even using some of the, bricked in patio space to grow food as well, which I'll be sure to show you guys in a minute. So next I want to go ahead and give you guys a tour of this backyard fruit and vegetable producing garden. So because Cecilia doesn't have a whole lot of room, she's making the best room of the space she's got. So she has this existing Meyer lemon tree that she planted like 18 years ago when she moved in. And actually, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's actually totally loaded up with Meyer lemons. If you guys grow a lemon tree, I do encourage you guys to grow a Meyer lemon, especially pick them when they're really ripe and just about dropping off, and really dark yellow. If they're fully ripe, they're very low acid, and actually they're quite good. They're one of my favorites. They're a tad bit sweet actually. And aside from the tree she has here, she also has a pallet garden that I showed you guys in one of my videos that she made just out of a pallet, and she's growing all kinds of herbs and strawberries in there. That's really great. And then right next door, she has a little raised bed garden. So I want to go ahead and do a close-up of the raised bed garden to show you some of the techniques and some of the things she's learned and didn't learn along the way. So here's her little raised bed garden, and one of the things she did, and actually something that I did too, she actually put some copper tape around the edges, and they say that's supposed to prevent the slugs. And because the slugs go across it and they shock themselves. So that may have worked if the copper wasn't oxidized, but here, it gets quite oxidized and whatnot, and she says actually this doesn't work. So the newer slug protection that I might recommend to you guys is actually they have an electrified fence that will shock the slugs and will work for sure. Over in this bed, she has a whole bunch of different crops growing, and they're planted quite close together, and this is for a very important reason, so that she can have more plants. And she comes out here and harvests every day to make her morning, green smoothie or juices. And so she's constantly picking these guys so that they never have a time to full out and get really big. So she just comes off and plucks small leaves. So that's one of my tips as well, is you want to plant closely and plant densely, so you could have actually more food growing for you guys. And so she has things like celery, Swiss chard, and some cabbage over there. And one of the things she's done is she has these guys right here. She basically has these plastic bottles that she's cut up into basically little rings. And she had saw this on YouTube, that you put them right below the plant, and it, then you'll have less bug and pest pressures. So she says that works, and it might be something you might want to try. I can see how some bugs might be stopped by it. I've also heard by, using like copper tubing or copper pipe, about the same diameter and height, That'll also prevent slugs because that's a lot more copper they got to transfer, go up and go down from. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good idea. As you guys can see behind me here, she's got this raised bed here, and then behind the raised bed she's got containers. And in this container she has raspberries, and she has an apple tree, and even some blueberries over there. And next she has this nice water fountain that gives a nice sounds of nature and a place for the birds to play. But let's go ahead and head over to her little greenhouse and another raised bed that she has growing on here. So over in this area she has a nice little small greenhouse, and even in this small patio area she has room for a little small greenhouse. And actually this is a design that I like a lot. Actually, it has a better fabric on the outside, and it's just enough room to have like a little planter box in the middle, and she could grow all her starts on the sides or other potted plants. And right now she's trying to grow cucumbers in there in the off season, and I think actually a tomato plant actually just popped up in there, so it's staying quite warm in there because, you know, it doesn't get too cold here because we have the ocean influence. And in this raised bed here, she basically has everything labeled, and they're on like these little oversized popsicle stick things, so that's really cool. Carrots, Chinese cabbage, romaine lettuce, and she also has some of the more exotic tropical perennial greens that I don't know if they made it. Things like the Okinawan spinach that I like, the longevity spinach. And so we'll see if they come back next year. I told her she should have probably covered them or maybe dug them up and put them in the greenhouse for the winter, because that's what I do, but it does stay a little bit warmer here. And yeah, her carrots so far are coming up, but she uses a combination of methods to plant, and I think this is really smart. She'll do some seeding, herself, but then also she'll get transplants and plant starts, so this always ensures you'll have a greater level of success and also food growing year-round, because if she started everything from seed, they'd just be popping out right now, and a lot of the things that she started from transplants are ready and harvestable. So she's actually eating out of her garden instead of out of the grocery store. So while most of her patio is actually, the bricked in area, not like the area where she's growing stuff that actually is connected to the earth and with the dirt, she's using her space really effectively by having these guys. Like these are basically pots, and she has them on wheels, so you could just easily roll them around, under the overhang protection, or keep them out here. And here's actually a pepper that's still alive. And then next she has some of my favorite purple perennial tree collard that she ordered cuttings online, and she's popped them in, and two of them are sprouting, and one of them looks like it didn't quite make it. Then she has like an orange tree in this pot here, and in the background you'll see she has some blueberries. And she has 3 blueberry plants, and she's told me that the blueberries in the full sun don't tend to do as good as the ones more in the shade. So she's, experimenting and learning as she grows, and that's something I encourage you guys to always do. See what works, see what doesn't work, and learn from, your mistakes, but also your successes. So another way Cecilia is making really good use of her space is by having these basically small raised bed, self-watering container gardens, and they're on wheels, so you can easily move them around. And she has 6 of them. I actually have an episode on this I did with my girlfriend, setting one up. I'll put a link down below for you guys. And with the proper soil mixture, it looks like she is having, good success with these guys. She has things like the winter purslane that she actually started from seed herself. She has ones with Swiss chard in there that she got from plant start. She started her own kale in the back from seed, and she has other ones currently waiting to come up, like Swiss chard and lettuce. And she of course has some beets coming up right here. But I mean, in this area here, this is approximately 4 feet by 8 foot approximately. I mean, maybe a little bit smaller, but that's a lot of growing space in these self-watering movable containers. These are known as the city pickers, available at Home Depot or Lowe's near you. So they're available everywhere, and this is the easiest way to grow if you have a condo, apartment, or a townhouse on your patio or wherever. And this is what I would recommend. You want to have a nice large surface area like in these guys, so you intensely plant and grow a lot of food in a small amount of space. Right, so that's pretty much all the growing area she has here in her place. What I want to show you guys next is actually a few things. Her compost piles that she has, so the worm composting and also just the standard thermal composting systems that she's using to keep the compost contained and the smells out. So Cecilia's on her third composter, and this is her third composter. She's been having some challenges making them work, in her words. Compost happens. You don't really need to make anything work if you have a proper mixture. But anyway, she's got the toter compost, and this just looks like one of those roll-away garbage cans that the big garbage company would come with their truck and pick it up and dump it in there. This is made by the same company that makes those, so they're definitely industrial grade, but these are designed for composting. So right about here, there's like a grate, and the goal is that everything you put in here will compost, and then the finished compost will drop out the bottom, which you could open this hatch on the bottom and get it all out. So I have a nice video on this where I show how to use it, how to set it up. And in my experimental garden, or experimenting with the toter, you know, it's not the best composter. I'm sure it works for certain people. It hasn't worked for me because maybe you got to pay a little bit more attention to it than I pay attention to things, and get your mixture right. To me, it doesn't really like add enough oxygen in there. I mean, the more air you could get and the more infiltration you could get in there, the faster compost is going to break down and happen. To me, yeah, while there is some updraft airflow from the center tube, there's not a lot of good airflow like in a compost tumbler, like a drawer foam compost tumbler that I really like. So in here, to me, it looks like maybe she has a little bit too much moisture and needs a lot more aeration. So probably I would add like some compressed horse bedding pellets, the pine pellets, mix it in there, and then you know, mix it all up, turn it up, and then put it back in there, and then continue to try to get in there and shovel it up and around and get some air mixed in there, and that'll help get the process going. The way she has been actually more successful composting, and it might be good to expand that, is actually with her worm bin. And she has a worm bin that I really like a lot. So let me go ahead and show you guys that next. So now I want to share with you guys her worm compost bin, and this is one of the most intelligent ones I've seen to date. I like it a lot myself, actually. It's the first time I've seen it in person. I've seen it online myself. But this is known as the Hungry Bin. And this is basically a continuous cycle worm bin, much like the toter composter is supposed to be a continuous cycle compost bin. How this works is that you put the food in, and this is basically like a funnel, and the worm compost, or their poop, actually drains down to the bottom, so you can harvest it, and the worms stay up near the top where the food is constantly being added. In addition, you get the liquid leachate. That's basically the worm pee and the liquid that goes through the system when you put in wet food scraps. That comes out the bottom that you can't collect, that she has actually in this jar here. But I recommend mixing with water and you know, adding to your garden. So mix liberally with a bunch of water, and then just put it in your garden. Now the leachate is not the same as a compost tea or a worm tea, which is aerated worm compost. That to me is much more beneficial than simply the leachate that comes out. And here is actually her nice, beautiful pepper plant that's still growing here in January. Has tons of peppers on there, and even some ones that are ripening. And this is underneath her overhang, where it does get more protection than, you know, out in the garden, so it stays a little bit warmer, and it looks like it's growing amazing. So that's really cool. You could grow peppers here year-round. So now I want to go ahead and show you guys how into this Cecilia is. She actually makes veggie patties for her worms to feed. These veggie patties are actually basically just all the pulp from when she juices and whatnot. She puts it in a freezer to freeze it to make it, you know, nice and easy to take care of, and doesn't attract the bugs, because she doesn't want to overfeed the worms. You don't want to overfeed anything, including yourselves, your mouths, your stomach, your kids, your wives, or anything, because they're not. Too much food is not good. We don't want too little food. We don't want too much food. We want just the right amount of food. So I've heard, you know, sometimes, you know, skipping several days at a time, feeding your worms, making them work for their food. And also, if you have too much food in your bin, then it can tend to attract more, you know, flies and whatnot. So you don't want too much rotting food in there. You want them to put in enough food so that they eat it and they continue to be multiply and happy. Now, because she does put this in the freezer and it's frozen, what I would do is actually take this out and thaw it out before feeding, so it doesn't, you know, chill down the worms too much, unless it's in this hot summer, and this might be a good thing to cool the bin down a little bit. Let's go ahead and open this bin up and show you guys what we got. She has a really nice mixture inside here of like shredded brown paper. She uses that primarily, as well as some grit for the worms, And you know, very little bugs, really nice texture. It's not like sopping wet. If your worm bin is sopping wet, that's not a good thing. She's managing this fairly well. The top is nice and dry, and that's why she adds the dry material, you know, to keep it at the right moisture level. Now if we go down a little bit further, it gets actually kind of wet here, and I don't know if you guys can see, but there's like all kinds of worms inside here, and she's burying her food. That's another practice that's very important. Don't just put the food on the top, put the food in there and then cover it over, and the worms are just going to town. So I mean, this method of composting is working very well for her, so it might really be good to get another one of these guys, because let me tell you, I think worms, they could digest their weight in food a day or something. I forget the exact statistic, but this way she could get rid of more of her food scraps, but also fatten up her worms, and they could actually create more babies, and actually more importantly, create the worm castings, which are one of the most valuable nutrients you know, for your garden. So besides just the worm castings that she makes here, she has a lot of other nutrients she uses. So let me go ahead and show you guys her garden shed. So even in this small back patio space, she has like a little shed area with all her nutrients for her garden. This is also where she stores her soil and mixes up soil and all kinds of stuff. Let me go ahead and show you guys inside here. This is actually really organized well. Maybe that's, I don't know if that's because she's a lady or not. But inside here she has all kinds of stuff, you know, on a shelf. She has pots and different things to grow wheatgrass, and she has the trace minerals and organic fertilizers, and all these bins full of different things. So let me show you guys down there what she's got happening. So simply what she has is basically she has different containers with different soil mixes. So she'll mix her soil up by batch. I like to use a wheelbarrow because it's a lot larger than just a tote, but she'll mix in a little bit of different items to make her really rich soil mixture. So she'll use things like the Cascade minerals or rock dust. She has the CBD mineral. She makes actually compost tea. She actually is on well water here in addition to the standard tap water that comes out the faucet, so she doesn't really need to use filtration. But she also has different compost mixes from the Home Depot big box store. Now, originally I used like this guy, the Kellogg's All Natural Garden Soil, because it is OMRI listed for organic agriculture. The sad thing is I didn't have the best results with this stuff. It tends to be really woody and not so good in my opinion because it's not fully composted. She also has this Miracle Grow Nature's Care, which is something that I necessarily wouldn't recommend. What I would recommend at Home Depot is the Eco Scraps. That's actually probably one of the better composts in my opinion, as long as they're, you know, still making it out of the fruit and vegetable wastes. And also look for at a True Value or other local independent nursery the Dr. Earth's brand of soil. That's a much better, higher quality stuff than the stuff she's been using. But nonetheless, this stuff works. She mixes some of the soil, and what I like to do when I blend up my soils is, you know, take a scoop out of this bag, a scoop out of this bag, some of her worm castings, some of her compost, you know, with some rock dust. She also has the coconut coir, which is, you know, important to retain the moisture. Mixes it up in here and adds some other stuff she has, and mixes it all up and then adds it into her beds. And this is what she does to top off her beds, and when she's starting a new bed or when she's starting a new pot, she mixes it all up here and literally makes her own soil. So you guys can see that this is much more beneficial than just like taking this stuff out of the Nature's Care organic raised bed soil, dumping it in and calling it a day. Because, you know, then you're subjected to whatever is in here is the nutrition feeding your plant. What I want to do in my gardening style is have a diversity of nutrients, you know, not only this kind, but this kind, the rock dust, the worm castings, her own compost, and a little bit of everything, right? It's like baking a cake. Of course, the majority of my mix would be, you know, these two guys with smaller amounts of the other things, and of course read the bags, the labels of whatever you're using to figure out the right ratios. I do have other videos on this that I'm not going to get into today. So that's pretty much her whole gardening setup here. The next thing I'd like to do is actually head over, because in this senior 55 and better community, they actually have a community garden for the residents here to join. So I'm going to go ahead and go over there and show you guys, you know, besides just this space, she could also grow in there, and she's a member of the garden club, and they have fruit trees and all this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and take you guys over there next and show you guys just another way she can actually get her hands in the dirt here. So besides Cecilia having her own little private garden at her place, at her condo, which is really cool, this senior condo development actually has an area for a community garden. This is what I think is necessary in all, condo developments, townhouse developments, and even apartment complexes should all have a community garden space. So this has been up and running for some amount of time, and it's really nice actually. They've got it dialed in. It looks really beautiful, and I want to show you guys in a second. I'll take you over there. Let's see, there's basically raised beds and people growing vegetables over on this side, and the other side they have actually fruit trees, like grapes and berries and all this kind of stuff. And this is all available to anybody that lives here in this development, provided you join the gardening club. So I want to encourage you guys to reach out and join your local gardening club to network with others and also get free transplants and plant starts and learn a lot from them. So what I want to do next is actually take you guys into the raised bed area and show you some of the techniques they're using to grow food quite successfully here. So now I'm going to go ahead and enter the organic garden. I like that it's organic. It says no herbicides or pesticides allowed. So this is really cool. Keeps everybody on the same page, and that's awesome. And so here are some of the practices they're doing, because I mean this is like next to nature, right? I'm sure there's deer and other creatures all out here. So what they got is they got 6-foot tall fences to keep things out. This is very important depending on where you live. And of course, they got a gate and a latch, so animals can't open this up, but I can. So let me go ahead and see what they got. So here on the inside of the community garden area, they basically have all raised beds that are actually all symmetrical, the same size. I think this is really nice. They actually have nice large pathways. I personally would make my pathways a bit smaller so I could actually fit in more raised beds. But everything here looks beautiful. This is probably one of the most beautiful community gardens that I visited, because this is, people sign up to be in the garden club, and if you sign up, you got to pay money for raised bed here, and then you should manage it and take care of it. So I mean, just almost every bed is taken up and looks like it's growing some amazing stuff. And they're doing some other things to keep the pests out. So they got that one tall fence, but that may not keep small rabbits or other creatures out, or the birds that could fly. So what they got is they got these guys. I don't know if you guys could see these all in the background. It's basically like 1/4-inch PVC tubing with the corner brackets, and they build just a big box. So all this is a big box, and it's got the netting all around it. So this keeps birds and small rodents and whatnot out, so that they're not going to be eating the greens. Now furthermore, if you're having like bug problems, they make finer mesh that'll actually keep out flying pests. So basically you're putting and building a house around your crops to keep them safe. And this is just like super simple, super easy. And I'm glad that like 98% of the people here are doing this. And I'm not really seeing any crop damage from birds or deer or anything. So this is amazing and something all you guys should do, because this stuff is super cheap. They're using the PVC. You could also use, EMT, electrical conduits, available at most hardware stores. So Next, I wanted to go ahead and I can't sit here and show you guys all the different things they're growing, but I want to go ahead and pick out just one of the beds that I really like a lot, because it looks like they're really doing it right with having good nutrition in the soil and growing some really healthy crops here. So here's one of the coolest raised beds in here. As you guys can see, they basically got these frames that you can just lift up and have easy access to your plants. You can just literally pick this whole thing up and carry it off. And now you could work your garden, and then when you're done working on your garden so the pests can't get back in, you're just gonna go ahead and put it back on. And inside this raised bed, they got things like collard greens, they got kale, they got some carrots, and they got Swiss chard, maybe some beets over there. And it's all really growing lush, so this must be some really good soil in here. And I mean, here in Monterey County, it's got really close to the ocean. It doesn't get too cold. Really nice sun, nice weather. Yeah, it gets a lot of rain too, overcast a lot, but nonetheless, they're able to grow a lot of food. Now, one of the sad things I'm seeing at this community garden is things are growing lusciously and abundantly, but the sad part for me is that the food that's being grown here is not getting harvested. I think the gardeners here need to really start incorporating and including more of the food that's being grown in their garden plot. I mean, they could save a lot of money. I mean, here at the local stores, some of the standard local stores that sell organic produce, it's quite expensive to buy organic greens, but yet they're growing it themselves, but they're not using it. So I want to go ahead and give you guys some tips on how to use some of the greens that you're growing in abundance. When you have so much, and like most people don't eat their greens as part of a main meal, It's a side dish. And I want you guys, my viewers and everybody watching this, to make your greens and your vegetables the main dish. And if you're gonna eat meat and processed foods and other things, make that a smaller side dish. America's got it back ass words, if that's a word. They're eating too much of the processed meat stuff and small amounts of the vegetable stuff. We need to reverse that. Large amounts of vegetables, smaller amounts of other stuff. So some of my favorite ways to use some of these greens, such as the collard greens and whatnot, is to juice them. As a matter of fact, this morning I probably juiced about a pound of my personal greens from my garden with some celery. And I would have liked to also put some cucumbers in there to really, you know, get the greens into me. This made about 2 cups of juice, which was, I easily drank, and I actually enjoyed it. And you gotta build up, because some people aren't used to drinking that high quantity of greens. So start off with like 1, you know, or 2 of the leaves and a bunch of celery, maybe some cucumbers and some apple, maybe some lemon to sweeten it up a little bit so you get used to it. And this is the best breakfast you guys could have because it's so easy to digest. And when you're waking up and getting breakfast, you're breaking your fast of 8 hours from sleeping and not eating. So this is really a nice way to ease into your day. Plus also save you guys the money from buying donuts or junk food or eggs or bacon or whatever else you guys would eat, right? So I like that a lot. The other thing I like to do is make green smoothies. So you can take some greens and just put it in with some water or coconut water and a banana or 2 fresh or ripe, and then maybe a frozen banana or 2, and maybe even some blueberries like my mom does, and blend that up into a nice green smoothie. Another really good way to start using your greens to get the benefits out of them instead of just leaving them in the garden like many people are doing here, which is quite sad to me. So yeah, those 2 ways will definitely increase the amount of greens you're using. So next time, hopefully I come back to this garden, I'll see there's just gonna be a crown of like 5 or 6 leaves at the top, because those are the ones that they're leaving to keep growing. But meanwhile, they're getting all the nutrients out of all the bottom growth. That's just gonna basically fall off, and you're gonna have to compost at a later point anyway if you don't eat them. So another cool thing about being here in Monterey County, depending on where in the county you live, it doesn't get like too cold. Like, you know, some places get a frost, and I mean, here, yeah, they could have a frost, but in general, it stays pretty warm, and this is evidenced by this pepper plant. And yeah, you can see it's got some damage, some frost damage and whatnot, but it's still alive, and it's got peppers here in January. This is completely amazing. And if I was growing here, one of the things I would grow is I would grow the Manzano peppers. Now they're a hot pepper, but they're more cold tolerant than just these standard varieties of peppers. And despite the cold weather, unprotected, I'm highly confident that that would last year round here, and you'd have peppers year round. Another thing I would do if, you know, I was in charge of this garden, I would start including more perennial edible vegetables. You know, maybe some in the beds, but more around the periphery so that they will be here for years to come. Something like the purple perennial tree collards or the green perennial tree collards. Like grow those up the edges, so that people could even have more greens, and they'll grow year-round easily, and incorporating other herbs and, you know, perennial plants around the borders. Maybe I'd have a section of Jerusalem artichokes and yacone, and man, there's so many cool things that can be grown here because it doesn't get the frost. I think the last thing I want to do in this episode, because I could show you around this community garden all day, it's really cool, but I gotta get running. I want to go ahead and interview Cecilia Starr. Actually, you saw her garden earlier, and this is the development where she lives, and she had a community garden plot here, and learn more about why she grows, you know, her food and why it is so important to her. So now I have the pleasure of introducing you to the gardener here. This is Cecilia Starr, and we're just going to go ahead and ask her some questions today. So Cecilia, why did you decide to literally invest in the time, the effort, and the money to grow your food?
Well, because I think it's important to eat a lot of greens and eat it fresh rather than buying it from the store, so I get all the nutrients right away. It really helps to keep me healthy and keeps the arthritis away, and that's why I eat a lot of vegetables.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know you had some health conditions like arthritis and yeast infections and some other things.
Yeah.
Like, how has changing your diet and eating more of these vegetables, or almost all these vegetables, helped you out?
Well, that has really helped a lot, because when I switched to being a vegan or a vegetarian, diet. My arthritis went away. I've controlled the yeast infection by it. And a lot of other things have happened too, like getting healthier, getting stronger. It's really been very beneficial. I'm just real pleased with how I feel. I feel more like light-footed. I don't feel like heavy and sluggish anymore like I used to feel.
Yeah, so as you guys heard, this is a senior, development, but Cecilia doesn't look a day over maybe 35. But if you don't mind sharing, how old are you?
73.
Wow, this is one good-looking 73-year-old, and she's what, a great-grandma?
Yeah, it could be. I have pretty old grandkids, 30-year-old, 29, 30-year-old grandkids.
Wow. Yeah, she's full of energy. She still plays tennis and gardens, and it works and all kinds of cool stuff. So do you attribute the energy that you have now because of, the diet and eating the fresh foods and whatnot?
Yes, I do. I contribute a lot of that, and I play tennis 3 times a week, and I still work. I still hold down a full-time job 3 days a week doing hair, so that gives me all that energy to do all that, and it's good.
Now, I've seen in your garden, you have a lot of successes, but there are some failures that you're having some challenge with. What are some of the hardest things that you've seen and learned, and you need to still maybe improve on in your garden?
Last summer I had some mites, and that I had to go on YouTube and watch your videos on how to get out there with the water. I used the water spray and the hose and washed it and hand washed each one of my plants and got rid of them all. And it worked. They haven't been back. None of it's not on any of this second stuff that I've got growing now. I washed that all off, saved them. So I'm real pleased with what I've done, and it's all a learning. I'm learning. If what doesn't work, I don't do it the next time. Like with my beans, I gotta redo them. So, but that's okay. I love my plants, and they're making me healthy and what I am today. So.
Yeah, and besides just, eating your plants and getting healthy from the good food you're eating, you're also getting exercise, right? You're also connecting with nature. You're also getting sun to make vitamin D. I mean, gardening is just a good, healthy thing to do, and I think everybody should do it and, spend some time to grow your own food so that you know what goes into it. So, Cecilia, you want to tell us what are some of your favorite crops that you like to grow a lot and some of the ones you like to eat the most?
Swiss chard and collard greens are probably actually my favorite. It's surprising. I didn't know that. And I'm trying some new stuff like purslane, winter purslane. That's supposed to be really, really good. And so I'm trying a few odd things like the square spinach that I heard you talk about. So I'm trying to work that out, and let's see, what did I have a success in? Well, I also decided to switch from having, I had 2 more fruit trees that I dug up and donated to my garden club, and which we now have out in our garden area. And so I have more room to plant more greens, which will give me more benefit faster than what the fruit could produce at one time. So for this small space that I have, I try to keep it more efficient so I can grow more and eat more for myself right here and grow what I eat.
Yeah, definitely want to agree with that. As much as I like fruit trees and love to eat fruit myself, I think, that's why my channel is called Growing Your Greens, because greens are the most important food on the entire planet. So how long have you been gardening and growing food now, Cecilia?
I just started. I've only been doing it last year, and so about a year and a half that I'm just getting into it. I just made my raised beds myself, went to Home Depot, measured my stuff and had my wood and had them cut it, came home and put the screws in it and the wire under it, and I made these raised beds that I've got now. And then I bought the city pickers so I could do more utilizing for over my brick area, but I don't have to destroy it. I could still use it, or whoever comes after me could still have it there. It's all movable. Where I go, they're going to go with me. So that idea I like.
Yeah, wow. I mean, so she's only been doing it a year and a half or so. That's amazing. I mean, you could be a gardener of any age. You know, if you 5 years old on up to, you know, whatever. There's always time to learn how to garden, and it is really easy. It's just like learning how to walk or anything else. You just have to try, and you will finally make it and be successful, you know, after trial and error. And I'm still learning too. I mean, some of my compost piles aren't as hot as I'd like them to be, especially when I'm not there to turn them all the time, and especially when it's a little bit cooler in the winter time. So, Cecilia, the last thing I want to ask you today is, what's a word of wisdom for all my viewers out there that you'd like to share with them about, you know, you learning about garden and your diet and all this kind of stuff?
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't let my age get in the way or as an excuse that I can't do it. So I keep trying to, what doesn't work, I'll try something else. I get on YouTube, I watch all my YouTube, and John Kohler here on YouTube, all his channels, and I learn from doing that. And then I think, well, that sounds like a good idea, I might try that. And if it doesn't work, like I've been through 3 different composters, I'm still trying to find out what works for me. And so you just got to get out and do it. Don't be afraid. You know, just keep trying.
So if at first you don't succeed, try again is one of the mottos that I like to say. And, you know, that's pretty much it. I want to encourage you guys to look at Cecilia as a role model, and that if she could do it, so can you guys, you know, no matter where you live, you know, your age, or anything else that you might have in your head that's holding you back, because you just got to try, learn, and do. And if you fail, that's all right. Pick yourself up, you know, try again, and keep doing it. I mean, she continues to experiment with different plants. She learns what works, what doesn't work, and she's learning as she goes. And that's what I'd say for you guys as well. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hey, please give me a thumbs up to let me know. I'll try to come back and visit Cecilia next time I'm in town, and maybe she'll have 12-foot high tomato plants again like she did last year, being so successful using the same methods that I teach, because she watches me and she does what I do. I mean, she said that to me while I'm visiting, which is actually quite funny. But it works. What I do works, and that's why I share with you guys, because it works for me and it could work for you too, you know. It's just, it's simple once you follow the rules. If you know the ingredients to bake a cake, anybody could bake a cake if you follow the directions. So it's just about following directions, and a lot of that, you know, is learning as you grow as well. So also, be sure to check my past episodes. I have over 1,100 episodes now that contain a wealth of knowledge so that you guys can empower yourselves to grow your own food. And be sure to click that subscribe button right down below to be notified by new and upcoming episodes that have coming out about every 3 to 4 days now. So once again, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time. Until then, remember, keep on growing. Alright, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. Today, another exciting episode for you. And where I'm at today is Pacific Grove, California. It's near Monterey. And the reason why I'm here today is for a 4-day event.